writing them down.
Okay, don't say anything. Okay, you're live. Hello and welcome to Power Women Wednesdays. I feel like I have a powerful woman right in front of me right now. Patrice Washington, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic, and I'm happy to be here with you.
All right, so here's how I'm going to introduce you. My friend, my family, my little sister. Yes.
I was thinking about that this morning. I'm like, are we at the point where I can call Tim my big brother? Because
no doubt.
You're my big brother, yeah.
I'm your big brother, and you know I got your back. You could tell that from day one, huh?
I could. You were one of few people who say, like, let's keep in touch, or let's connect, or I want to introduce you to someone, and you actually kept your word. And in an industry like this, in days and times like this, that's not common. You know, people say it because it sounds good in the moment, but they don't follow up. And you have been so consistent, and I do consider you to be like my big brother.
Yes, well, I think God puts, people together. Her husband, Gerald Washington, is my dear friend. I love your daughter, so that means I'm like the cool uncle. And you guys have done a lot in life. Gerald worked in many, many situations as executive producer for so many shows, Steve Harvey show, etc. Patrice graduated from USC, right? You're excited about being a Trojan still.
I am, still.
And took that platform into a place that very few people have taken that platform. And that is all the way to a podcast that we'll talk about, radio shows, being on Steve Harvey's radio show nonstop, Steve Harvey TV nonstop, touring with Steve Harvey, touring on her own, speaking about true success literally all over the world. Because your thing is worldwide. We ain't just doing America.
Right. Right.
And we had some fun on the road, right? We were on the road together doing the Steve Harvey tour.
We did. That's how I fell in love with Tim Storey. So when you call, I'm here.
Yes. And then you come as well, and you shared 2 times at the Tim Storey live event in Beverly Hills, and she's a hit. So everywhere she goes, she is a hit. Tell me about the color choice today. That color is vibrant, which is, I'm loving it. It's popping.
Well, awesome. I think it's a reflection of just how I feel, and a lot of times I really do, even if I'm not feeling that well today, I feel amazing. But some days you're up, some days you're down. I choose to put on bright colors to just, bring out that emotion. And so usually when I'm on stage, if you think about it, I always have on bright colors.
That's true.
It just makes me happy. And being a personal finance expert, when I was coming up in this industry and it being such a male dominated industry, there were always, Tim, like the dudes in the black suits, the dark brown suits, the navy blue suits. And when I first started, I thought that's what I needed to look like in order to be effective, in order to be taken seriously. And so for like a year and a half, I was always in these dark suits trying to have like a power, look.
Yes.
And I was even though I was effective in my presentation, personally, I knew I was betraying myself because I love the bright colors. I love, sometimes tight clothes. I love the big earrings, because it's okay to be a woman and show that you're a woman and still show up in these types of spaces. And when I started to be myself, give and let all that other stuff go, my career really took off. It was standing in the truth of who I am.
I love that. And that's what we're talking about today, Power Women. Give me a little bit of your educational background. From high school, you decided to go to college. How'd you end up going to USC?
I knew that I was going to USC in 3rd grade when I spent the night at a cousin's house who lived in that area, and we rode bikes. We were riding over to like a movie theater that used to be across the street, and we rode by. I was about 9 years old or so. And I'm like, what is that? I had never seen a college before. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, but I had never been in that area, had never seen a college before. And I saw all these kids riding bikes and with backpacks and stuff. And I was like, that's a huge school. And my cousin said, that's USC. And so we rode our bikes on campus and I instantly felt at home. I was 9 years old and I took my lunch money and my movie money and I bought bumper stickers because that's all I could afford in the USC bookstore. And I saved those things and I didn't know they were called vision boards back then, but I got back home a couple of days later and I put this poster board up with all these stickers and it said, I am a Trojan, I'm going to USC. I figured out when I would be graduating from high school, 1999, and I put the date on there. And I looked at that every day from about third grade until I got my acceptance letter.
Yes. And so I find that so amazing because both of us believe in the things of God and that your steps are ordered by the Lord. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you are on that campus, right? And then you kind of get that vision of seeing yourself there. Mm-hmm. And then this really becomes what your life becomes about.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of private conversations. So it goes from going to USC mm-hmm. and studying there, working hard. Tell us how hard you worked there. You're a worker.
Yeah, I worked full time while I worked at USC. First, I worked the first 2 years graveyard shift at a hotel. And around the same time, met Steve Harvey and ended up landing an internship that was supposed to be 60 days. And after the 60 days, I was saying my goodbyes to Steve Harvey and to all the co-hosts on the show at the time. And Steve is like, where the heck are you going? Like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I'm an intern. So I'm done, sir. But I really appreciate it. I brought thank you cards and everything, And they're like, no, you're not leaving. And they hired me on and I stayed on for 2.5 years until I graduated. And during my now also at the same time,
yes,
I had a family member who was in real estate and they introduced me to the world of real estate. I got my salesperson's license at 19 years old.
Yep.
So I would work for Steve in the morning, go to school all day, and then help them in the real estate office in the evening every day. And really loved real estate, started to make money, helping out with different deals. And by senior year, decided to get my broker's license. So my second semester senior year, I took what was supposed to be a project, a senior project type of thing. And it was a real estate and mortgage brokerage, a full service real estate and mortgage brokerage, and submitted the plan to my entrepreneurial studies professor, but also was really working the plan in real life. And you mentioned my husband. At the time, he was my best friend. We were not even thinking about dating, but he was great in marketing and just business overall. So he and I joined forces and started this real estate and mortgage brokerage. I was 21, he was 22. And so all of that kind of happened at the same time.
So, and it's an amazing thing. I've written down a couple of things. Number one, you have the promise of something. Number two, you have to walk by principles, and then there will always be the problems. Mm-hmm. Where did you learn the principles of success that I see you walking in, your husband walking in, and your daughter walking in? I mean, your daughter, to me, as the cool uncle, I see that focus in her already, okay? So you have the promise of something. So people that are watching us right now, they have visions, they have dreams. That's why they follow people like us. Mm-hmm. But then there's the principles, okay? Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the principles of working out those principles. What I mean by that, as you know, the integrity, showing up on time. Mm-hmm. You got this funny thing that you do about cleaning your space. Like, don't be doing stuff in the middle of a mess, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us about principles for a minute.
I really believe, Tim, as I'm sure you believe, that success leaves clues.
Yes.
And I've always been very inquisitive and always tried to look for the good or what I could glean from different people and different relationships. And so while I didn't always have the immediate examples in my house,
yes,
in my household growing up, I just always knew that I was born for something greater. Okay. And so I was always searching for what that could look like in different people. And so over the years, without even knowing people as calling them mentors, there are a lot of people who have mentored me to this point, near and far. And, I've picked up something from different people like Steve Harvey. Back in the day, I showed up to what he used to do was the Hoodie Awards, the neighborhood awards, they called it. And I worked the very first neighborhood. I worked several of them, but I was on the team that did the very first neighborhood awards at the Forum. And I'll never forget, I was about 20 years old, and everyone had discussed, like, all the, assistants in the office and at the radio station and different people, they discussed, everyone just come in like your sweats and your basic clothes. And then, we'll all change. You can take turns changing for the actual ceremony and all this stuff. So I did what everybody else did. I showed up in like a USC sweats, type of thing, and tennis shoes. Not normally how I dressed, but at the time it seemed appropriate to go with the crowd, go with what everybody else said.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget, I was working. I was in that basement of the Forum doing my thing in the production office, and Steve, and at the time his manager, Rashawn, they walked by and they like stopped in their tracks like they had seen a ghost. Yeah. And I was like, good morning, sir. Good morning. And Steve said, what the hell do you have on? Yeah. And but they were cute. They were cute USC sweats, from the bookstore. Yeah. And I was like, oh, everybody said they were going to wear sweats. And he was like, never lower yourself to what everybody else says that they're going to do. You need to dress like where you are going. You are better than that. You don't ever. And they lit into me for about 8 to 10 minutes. And and I remember calling a family member who didn't live too far from the Forum. And I took my little break, 20-minute break, ran to their house, got some like business casual clothing, and came back. And they said, and the fact that you knew to shift that immediately is why you're going to be successful.
Wow, wow, wow.
Ever since then, people will see me in the airport. It's funny, I did an interview on my podcast, and one of the things that one of the women said was, every time I see you, even if you're in the airport, you're always so well put together. Yes. And so that experience happened at 20 years old. And I'm 37 tomorrow is my birthday. And I will be 37, and I have carried that with me. And so that's one example of just different times in my life that, I've had those experiences where they happen to me or I watched them happen to others. Mm-hmm. And I take it and I try to apply it immediately. I don't sit on information. It's like, okay, got it.
Yes. So we did not miss that. Her birthday's tomorrow for all her fans. And there are a bunch of emojis. Give her some birthday emojis right now. I love emojis. Give her some hearts. Birthday tomorrow. So this is interesting, Patrice, because what happens is that sometimes we have to learn how to cope with criticism. Mm-hmm. So Steve Harvey, he came in and challenged you on how you were dressed. A lot of people would have been put off. Who does he think he is?
Oh, well, that's what the other people said.
Yes. But that's why so many people are stuck. Would you not agree?
Oh, yeah.
They're not willing to deal with criticism and realize that sometimes life and sometimes God is sending people to try to elevate us and take it to that next place. And sometimes that's through that coaching that comes with criticism.
Well, you know what another principle for me is, Tim, is that I'm coachable.
Yeah.
I determined a long time ago, that I'm coachable. I'm open to feedback. I'm open to, someone sent something yesterday. We put out a new video on my YouTube page, and one of my followers sent me an email and said, hey, did you have to use the word negative in the subject line? Yeah. And I said, hey, and I replied, and sometimes people are so surprised that I'm replying myself. And I said, hey, I am so open to feedback. Tell me what kind of made you feel some kind of way about that word. And so she emailed me back this long thing. And really, it wasn't anything bad at all. She was just kind of, just asking me because I always talk about how powerful words were. Yeah. But I know people in my space, in my position, that would have ripped into this lady without even asking her what her actual feedback was.
Wow. You know what I mean? Very good point. Very good point. Yes.
And I'm just like, I'm open. If you have something, if it's something that'll help me grow, like, I am down for it. And there's a difference between constructive criticism and people who just want to, rip into you, you know, because there's those people too. But if you have feedback or something constructive, I'm coachable. I want to be the best.
Yes.
I want to be the best. And to be the best, you got to keep learning.
You are the best. And I'm going to talk about that right now. All right. So I'm talking to the Patrice Washington. You know how you hear the Ohio State? You are the Patrice Washington. Now, so here's what's happened to you, Patrice. You have come into a space and you've taken it by storm. You have taken the space by storm. I remember in 1992, I was doing a big church conference. It was me, it was another guy who was pretty well known, and we were at a church that sat 5,000. We had it packed out at night. The daytime speaker was speaking to only several hundred people, and we didn't know who he was. So when I got done speaking on the Sunday night, the morning speaker came up and said, brother, if I could just have a minute of your time, I'd like to introduce myself. And I said, well, what's your name? He said, my name is T.D. Jakes. Now, in 92, folks didn't know T.D. Jakes, okay? A couple years later, he ran circles around every one of us 32 times. Are you understanding?
Yeah.
Church of 30,000. He was on the cover of Time magazine. He's doing movies. He is T.D. Jakes.
He is T.D.
But
Jakes.
in 92, he was a daytime speaker with about 300 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a nighttime speaker with 5,000. Mm-hmm. So you better be careful who you're talking to.
Yeah.
So when I met you, I thought, oh, here we go. She's coming up. She's been practicing in the backyard. Okay, so you are taking a space by storm. But as you know, I'm part of your inside team.
Yeah.
You're not going to take just America. We're going worldwide. We're going to Europe. You're going to Africa, right?
Yes.
You're going to Asia.
Yes.
And what is your main message when people bring you in to Europe, to Africa? Mm-hmm. What is the deposit that Patrice Washington is bringing in to this scope?
You know what? My main message, especially after losing everything, so creating that successful real estate business, having it tank in the recession, going from 7 figures to scraping up change, and totally, you know, rebuilding my life and being restored. And so many people, because I've been known now for several years as a personal finance expert, when people think of me, they want to talk about budgets.
Yeah.
They want to talk about credit reports. They want to talk about investing or all these other things that are very skill set driven. And my biggest message, Tim, is that wealth is not just about money and material possessions.
Okay.
If I would have only focused on a budget, on a credit report, on, you know, stocks or whatever, if I would have only focused on the numbers, I would not be here today.
Okay.
I wouldn't have rebuilt my life. That's 20% of it. 80% was working on myself and my mindset and my behaviors and my rituals and just my relationships and those types of things. And so my main message is that wealth is not just money and material possessions. Wealth is truly about well-being. And so if so many of us would stop making about when I get the raise, when I get the promotion, if I made more money, all these things outside of ourselves, right? Yes. And we understood that we are the actual CEOs of our lives, which means that we are responsible for everything that makes this business of me, this business of you and I run, then we would truly understand that there's just more to it than chasing money. We have to chase purpose. And a part of chasing purpose is understanding what your priorities are. When you know what your purpose is, you know what your priorities are.
Yes.
And that I firmly believe, after counseling hundreds of people, that financial mismanagement is not so much that people don't know basic financial education.
Yes.
Yes, it should be mandatory in schools. Yes, it should be taught, you know, from elementary on up. But the reality is, you know, not to spend more than you make.
Okay.
Big mama said that, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know that if you take out a line of credit, those folks don't want their money back. That's basic. Like, you know, a lot of the basic stuff. You don't do it because you're unfulfilled. And no one talks about that.
See, that's what I'm liking. I'm liking that because you're talking about balanced success.
Mm-hmm.
So Psalms 1, blessed is the man. And then it goes on to say that you could be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. And that means that you have stability.
Yes, your roots are strong.
Your roots are strong. Your leaf shall not wither, which means a lot of people's stuff passes away and goes here and there. But the Bible says that when we are connected to the source, that we will stay fresh and green.
Yes.
That's the beautiful thing about the life in God and wealth in God, is that we have longevity.
Yeah.
Okay? So I wrote down the promise, the principles. There will always be the problems, and you talk about that in your seminars, that the problems will come, the things will come, the things will hit. But if you stick with your principles, your principles and your faith in God can get you through the problem stage.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
I believe that wholeheartedly. I don't think on the podcast, I talk about all these pillars and the stuff that I actually did. Right.
Okay.
And I can't wait to have you on. But I talk about all those things. And one of the pillars is faith. And the faith pillar is about believing in something greater. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is so much of what has happened didn't happen to me. It happened for me. And you don't always get it in the midst of it.
Yes.
It doesn't always seem that clear, but I can say unequivocally that on the other side, every time losing everything was not fun, was not, a roller coaster ride. I lost everything. I went through foreclosure. I went through bankruptcy. I went through repossessions. This is a poster child for financial loss.
Yes.
And so I don't say that lightly when I say that I lost everything, hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical debt, everything was going on at the same time. But I also know a lot of people who lost less than I did at the same time who have still not recovered.
Okay.
9 years later.
I don't want to shortchange those words in that story because that can bring so much pain. So tell me one feeling that gave you to have such loss, because a lot of people that are watching right now, they have loss.
Yeah.
This is Power Women Wednesdays. So there are women that are watching today that got divorced. So you have force, and then now you have divided force. And you find yourself, taking care of maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children, feeling like you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that feeling. I talked to somebody yesterday who had a really good job, and it looks like they're not going to have that job.
Yeah.
So how do you feel? Well, a little bit nervous, a little bit afraid. Okay?
I was ashamed.
Okay. Talk to me about that.
I was ashamed because, Tim, I was the one that made it. I was I'm the one little Belizean girl from South Central Los Angeles, where all the kids I used to walk home with, and I mean all of the kids I used to walk home with, were in jail, on drugs, or prostituting. Literally, the 3 or 4 of them.
That is real, too.
That is real. The ones that I walked home with. Yes. And so I felt a duty and responsibility to make something of my life. Like, my parents did not struggle and come to this country for me to be, doing what I could have done in Belize. Like, I'm here for a purpose. And I always felt that from a very young age. And so I felt very responsible for being the one in my family that the kids after me could look up to. If Patrice went to college, I'm going to college. If Patrice did this, I'm doing that, And so when I lost everything, I come from a Caribbean family where you are really kind of groomed to be addicted to accomplishments and accolades, like that's what makes you, not so much you, right? The outside stuff. And so when I didn't have anything to report home, when I didn't have the money, I didn't have the cars, I was living in a 600 square foot box in Metairie, Louisiana, after losing my 6,000 square foot home and driving a beat up yellow van. I was no longer that person. I was no longer the Patrice, in my family. And I was ashamed and I was embarrassed and I felt guilty, like they had wasted time on me. I went through all kinds of roller coaster of emotions. And it wasn't until I found myself on the bathroom floor of that itty bitty apartment, bawling and crying and saying, God, why me? Like, I've been a good person. I really have. I've treated people with integrity. I continue to invest in my personal development and my education. I go to therapy.
Exactly.
I'm trying to be a well-rounded person. So how did I end up on this floor, literally with my face on the linoleum, on that cold floor, bawling and crying? And the Holy Spirit, you know, that still small voice said, get your Bible. And I got my Bible, and it's like I effortlessly turned to Proverbs, landed on 17:16. What good is money in the hands of a fool if they have no desire to seek wisdom?
Wow, wow, wow.
And that scripture, and that was the beginning of understanding for me the difference between knowledge and wisdom, that I have been smart. Yeah, I got my broker's license on the first try. I, you know, Dean's List at USC, always did really well academically, but I didn't know how to seek wisdom. I didn't know how to ask for help.
Yes.
You know, I didn't know. I just didn't know. I didn't grow up in a family where you ask for help. You better figure it out, make it happen, pray about it.
So here's what I love that you're doing is that you have become like a wisdom center by the grace of God, because you do realize that your life is a gift, your family is a gift, and we're all working on all things that are even gifted to us.
Yeah.
But now we have a chance to come to your Wisdom Center, Patrice Washington's Wisdom Center. Here's how we do it now. The podcast. Let's take our time talking about that, because the podcast is a unique thing, Patrice. As you know, we can touch the world through the podcast.
Yeah.
So tell me where we can hear the podcast, when the podcast is, and then I'm going to have Justin Black put some information so we can all go there. Okay? Tell us.
So the podcast was really created, Tim, last September, because I got tired of being in the box. You know how it is when you do TV and radio a lot. They want quick sound bites. And so people have asked me for so many years, how did you get off your brother's couch where I slept in 2009 to being America's money maven? And so while I'm very grateful for all the TV and radio that I've done, I wanted a platform where I could share my heart and where I could share this wisdom and tell the truth and tell the truth and the whole story. And so really excited. We're about to hit 100,000 downloads since inception.
Fantastic.
Super excited about that. And so every Thursday I release a new episode and I go over the 6 pillars in my whole process of redefining wealth. And so from fitness stuff about being mentally and physically fit, to creating relationships that matter, to setting up a life that supports you. Justin was just telling me he cleaned his whole apartment after listening to a podcast episode. I talk about the things that people don't think about when they think about their money. Yeah. And everything that I talk about really does tie back to wealth building, but it's not traditionally what you would think of on a personal finance show. And that's the fun. It's really, people come for one thing and they leave or they don't really leave because they end up hooked, but they're like, I am getting my whole life together with you. And I love that. I love that.
I love it. So PatriceWashington.com. Can you please spell Patrice?
Patrice, Patrice, and Washington like the state.
Okay. So PatriceWashington.com. And we can get all things Patrice there, because we have the podcast, and then you are on a speaking tour, and you are open to take the right invitations. And
absolutely.
That's another thing that me and you will continue to do together, speaking together. But I see you've been doing colleges, obviously, in the past. You're going to be doing these gigantic seminars, because there's just only you. There's only you in that space. And when I say this, people, I'm telling you, I'm in some of the greatest conferences in the world on a weekly basis. There's only one Patrice Washington. So please, if you want to book her, go to PatriceWashington.com. We'll find out, see what her schedule is, see how you can get her. But she will really change the way you think. She'll help give you a paradigm shift. Okay? All right, so we have the podcast. And give me one other project that you're excited about, then I'm going to ask you some questions.
I'm really excited right now. I'm just really working on my next book, which is all about redefining wealth. That is in the works, and really just focused on my family too, Tim, because I'm about holistic success. And so I have no desire to be a public success and a private failure. And so I'm excited about the work that I'm doing with my family as well, and what I know God is doing.
And that's always a work in progress. Isn't that so true?
Always.
That's what's great by being behind the scenes with all of us, right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny, like my daughter is already like 27 and I'm still fathering my daughter. Like, you're going to laugh at this. The other day I called her and I said, hey, can you go to lunch tomorrow? And she said, Dad, I wish I could. I'm going to be in Spain. I said, you didn't tell me about Spain? She goes, oh, I forgot. Come on.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that with my dad, so I can't talk.
All right, so let me go into some strong questions with you. If you don't like mine, I'm going to take 15 more minutes. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's go at it for 15 minutes, okay? Number one, help me understand this idea of I am on my grind, okay? And here's what I mean by this. I follow people on Instagram. I follow people on Facebook, Twitter, all these things. There's a lot of talk about being on my grind, okay? Yeah. Rick Ross did a song I tease about every day. I'm hustling, okay? So we're all hustling in our own way. I've already been in the gym. Justin's my trainer. You go to the gym. I watch you working out. You're like, ow, ow. Like, I'm glad she don't get mad at me. You be hitting those people hard. All right. So, but I think the on the grind thing has almost gone too far.
Yes.
To where people think they got to like pull it off on their own grit.
Yeah.
Let's me and you try to figure out some balance today. Talk to me about I'm on my grind.
I really feel that, like you said, it's gone too far. And as a wife and a mother and a woman, since this is Power Woman,
yes,
specifically for women too, I feel like this whole idea of achievement and accomplishment, and I got to make it happen, make it happen, make it happen, is making us so much more masculine in a sense. And we are just like letting go. Like women, I went through this season where I had to catch myself because I was as the woman, as the wife, as the mother, the nurturer. Yes. And so I would make sure that everyone went to the dentist. My husband, who's my first child, and my daughter, that they went to the dentist. If there was an ache or pain, that they were taken care of, that, you know, all those things. And then I got into this lane of like neglecting myself in the process because I was on a book tour and I was on my grind. And I was going from place to place. And so while I continued to care for them, my self-care became like non-existent, right? Yeah. Because I was like making it happen, forcing things to happen. And in 2014, I was on a national tour with Real Money Answers for Every Woman. And I was praying about, God, expand my territory. I want to go international. I want to do this. And I did phenomenally well. But of course, you know, we're believing for bigger. And the Holy Spirit said, how are you going to do a world tour and you huffing and puffing, getting up and down these stairs?
Yes.
In your house now. And it reminded me that I was neglecting like something. I really hadn't been breathing well. I really hadn't, but I had been pushing through. And I ended up going to the ER for what I thought I had food poisoning. And they ended up finding that I was severely low on iron. My blood work was awful. Like my hemoglobin levels were awful. The doctor said, if you were older, you would be getting a blood transfusion today.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you an opportunity to go speak to a hematologist and get an IV infusion of iron. And so that's what I had to do. But I said, wait a minute. God has given you a vision, and now you are spending all your time on your grind, hustling and grinding, and you are not even taking care of the vessel needed to execute the vision.
Yes.
And that's what I see so often is like, God blesses us with these grand visions, and then we lose our minds trying to hustle and grind and forget that the only way we're going to see the promised land is if we alive to see it.
That's so good. That's it.
Like, what are we doing? So we're not eating. We're not sleeping. We're not taking care of ourselves. Workouts happen if we get to it, if we get around to it. So they don't become the priority. we're putting junk in our bodies because we're not preparing, we're not planning, but yet we want the world to be given to us. How so?
Yeah.
Because if you got it right now, could you handle it? Could you handle it?
That's so good. And I think to add with that when people get in the grind, many times they go singular. It's about their grind.
Yeah.
Where true life is when you're plural.
Mm-hmm.
And that you have so much faith in God and his assignment, but you go work your assignment, but you're more plural. You're looking to be blessed, to be a blessing, right?
Yes.
Blessed to be a blessing. And that's what our squad's about.
Yes.
Those of us that all hang out with each other, we're turning each other on to stuff. We're like, what? You need a book deal? Let's talk to this person or that person. Mm-hmm. And so, I like what you're saying, but you can find balance in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think, Tim, to be honest, that's what I really talk about in Redefining Wealth.
Okay.
And the fifth pillar for me is about showing up as your best self, right? Becoming your best self. When you are your best self, it is so much easier to attract relationships.
Yeah.
Right? That can prosper you. It is so much easier to attract opportunities. Working out release stress, right? That's like a proven thing. Like it can release these endorphins and you're happy and you have more energy and all this stuff. You are showing up as your best self. So you don't have to go and always force opportunities and try to force relationships. Like our relationship has been built organically.
Yes.
You introduced me to Win, from Paul Mitchell. That relationship has blossomed organically.
Yeah.
Kathy Buckley has blossomed organically. It has not been a fight of like, oh, I have to make things happen. And that hustle and grind, again, it goes back to thinking that everything is in your own power.
Yes.
And thinking that you are, yes, we have to show up. That I get it done. That I do my work. And I show up as my best self whenever I'm asked to speak or just to be there to support you all. Like I came to see you at Disneyland, right? Yeah. But so many opportunities I got out of coming to support you, and I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't there to do anything. I just came to see my friends and be there to clap and cheer for you all.
See, that says a lot.
Yeah, and that's a pillar. That's another pillar. Like relationships matter. But so when you turn it singular and it's all about you, and you will step on anyone to get to where you want to go. You will dismiss people. You will not talk to certain people because you think that they can't help you. And you will not even speak to a janitor or say good morning when you walk in, having no idea that he may be the gatekeeper to who you want to get to. When we don't realize that there's always someone watching us who has the power to bless us. But when we are so singularly focused, we're not into building relationships. And so I tell people all the time, 90%, I show up and I do my work, but 90% of the blessings that I've received have come through relationships, not because I forced anything.
And just to say this on a side note, you're going to be on a Paul Mitchell tour. You're going to Paul Mitchell schools in various cities, and people can actually come and see you. So
for free.
Go to PatriceWashington.com. You can find out where you're going to be. Coming up, you'll be in Houston.
I'll be in Houston Monday, Webster, Texas, Tuesday in April, Annapolis. I'll be coming to Cincinnati, Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, just stay tuned. Make sure you're on my Instagram because I'm going to keep posting those dates too.
I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so now I do know this by being around Oprah Winfrey. When Oprah enters a room, she's not intimidated. She ain't scared. She knows she's Oprah, okay? And so she exudes that kind of confidence that she truly knows she's Oprah.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think that a lot of times when we talk about power women, not every woman is thinking, I've got to do triple in order to equal this, or I have to do quadruple to equal this. But we would all admit that because of the way things have been done in the past, between men and women, with lack of equal pay, etc., right? There are times that you do not get what you should properly get,
right?
Because you are a female. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what have you done about it?
It's funny you should ask that. I don't even know if you know this, but I started an entire movement called the Earn More Money Movement for Women. And I wanted to give away 20 free principles during the time that we acknowledge Equal Pay Day, which this year is April 10th.
Okay.
It's the day in the year when women finally will make what their male counterparts made by December 31st of the previous year. So essentially, the average woman could be working 3 months longer to get the same money. And so what I did for myself first, but then you know me, I'm always like, once I learn it, I got to share it. And so these 20 principles include like facing your fears and giving yourself permission and learning how to rock your gifts and being bold and unapologetic about asking for what you want. You know, a lot of times as women, we're just happy to get a seat at the table. Okay. And even at this point, I keep a brag binder right here in my office where before I have a call with someone and I have to negotiate something, I flip through the brag binder, which are a lot of my accomplishments, the thank you cards that I've received from speaking or from people who have read my books or send me gifts in the mail and stuff. I try to keep tokens of that. So I remember that I didn't get asked to the table because there was no one else to ask.
Yes.
You know, I got asked to come to this table because I deserve a seat at the table. Yes. And not to shrink back from that. And a lot of times the reason that the gap is still, you know, so prevalent is sometimes many times we just don't ask. We don't even negotiate. We accept the first thing that's given to us. And there's a time and a place for that. When you're building relationship in certain instances, I understand taking less because sometimes you have to bet on yourself. But there has to be something there that you know you can turn that, you know, to work in your favor as you move forward. But then there's other times when people are just plain wanting to take advantage. And my thing is, I walk in my gifts every single day. I don't wait on a stage to be in my gift. This is who I am on and off stage. This is who I am on and offline.
Walk in your gift. And I told your husband Gerald that just a couple weeks ago, that truly, when I first saw Patrice at a Steve Harvey event, I gave you some space. Because you're so focused when you want to be. Number one, about how tall are you with shoes on?
With shoes on, I'm easily 6'1".
Okay, then. Because I am right at about 6'1", right? I'm 6'3", right? So number one, you're beautiful. Then she's in shape. Then she's 6'1", same as me, right? And you're just zoned out, just zoned.
I do.
I've seen the commercials of bam, 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 bestseller on this show, that show. But I love that you just own it. You just own it. Like your posture is strong. You just own it. Women need to own it, right?
We do. Because we have to teach people how to treat us. I love this. And I've been in instances, Tim, where people will be like, you know, talking about what they got paid to be at the same conference or to be at this for the same campaign or project. And I just sit there because I'm like, you got excited about your seat at the table and afterwards, not to start anything on a set or, you know, while we're working, but afterwards I have pulled my peers aside, women in this space in particular, and said, you know, here's the truth. I got paid triple what you were paid, or I got paid double and I flew first class and I'm staying in a suite and all this stuff. Like, you didn't ask. And you have to ask because the standard for all of us must be raised. I
love it.
You know?
Love. Okay, so these are things that you're going to be talking on the podcast. Okay. So patricewashington.com. So we're going to go there. We're going to learn. We're going to grow. You're going to have me on the podcast.
I am, for a special series. I have to tell you about it.
Ooh, special series. All right, so I want you to take about 3 to 4 minutes and life coach me. See, you get to watch me, and we all have blind spots. So you've seen me speak in many, many situations. Why do you think what I'm doing is working right now? As you know from being around me, holy schmoly, man, what's happening to my life? It's kind of blowing me away. Because I had my run for many, many years as a well-known minister who traveled the world, 75 different countries,
Mm-hmm.
doing all that stuff. Why do you think the world has taken to me and we're taken off? What's your take on this?
So as someone who has seen you speak and seen you on big stages, smaller stages, every stage, what I can say wholeheartedly is that you're consistent. You're consistent. And I think that's what I credit, I think, to my own success and my own growth, is that people understand that I'm the same online and offline. And in a world of fakers, you say world shaker, but there's also a lot of world fakers, right? That are out here that are just, they're not congruent. They're not congruent with their message. They're saying one thing and then they're doing totally different things.
You're so street when you want to be.
I'm from South Central.
I know. You just said South Central. World shakers, and you're like, yeah, there's world fakers too.
And there's world fakers there's a lot of them. And I think that even though we are so media driven and reality TV driven and all this stuff, that people are yearning for truth. Like even if they don't know it, even if they're like, oh, well, what do people call it? Their guilty pleasure. Yeah. Oh, my guilty pleasure is this. And they may be allowing that in, but what their soul is really crying out for is for someone to just tell them the freaking truth and help them have a paradigm shift. And
love it.
What I know to be true about you, like I said, you're my brother because you have been from day one consistent. The stuff that you say on stage mimics the stuff that you've said when we invited you to be our dinner date. You came in.
I went on their date night because they do a date night and they're all romantic to each other. And then there I am.
Date night, we're like date night, Tim Storey edition. And even in the private conversations, in the phone conversations, in you being featured on date night, it is the same as who I see on stage. And so even if people don't have that level of intimacy with you where they can see you separately, I think that you can feel it. You can sense it. Deep down when someone is just gassing you up, just talking just to talk. And when it's not congruent with the walk. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. And I really, I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired by you. And I've learned a lot from you.
Give me a real answer because you are still kind of street.
Hmm? I'm still street.
A little bit.
Hey, it's a little street in there. That's who I am.
Of course. And that's what's so beautiful. I think, as you're saying, the world just wants it real. Just bring it real.
Yeah.
So here's what you're going to do, okay? Because I promised people this. You are going to help people get out of debt. You can help them get out of debt, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you're going to help them to manage their money too, right?
Oh, yeah. That's the sixth pillar.
Okay.
Yep.
You're going to help them have balanced success.
Yes, that's what it is.
You're going to help them own who they are. You're going to help them to own who they are.
And I'm going to help them surrender. I'm going to help them stop fighting and stop being selective about their surrender. Because when you don't have money, it's easy to say, God, take control of my finances.
Okay. So the show is Power Women Today, but you don't just help women. You're helping men and women.
Yeah.
All right. Look at you. You're excited. Things are happening. Hey. All right. So Justin Black, how do we turn this off? Yes. So here's what I want to say to you. Thank you for being on today. I look forward to continuing to do work with you and your husband. I'm so excited about just where life is taking all of us, right?
I am too.
And to God be the glory. Is that true?
To God be the glory. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you for being on Power Women. Make sure and share this to other people that need to watch this. Go to patricewashington.com. and she'll teach you to continue to live this beautiful life. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon.